So, if ever there's anything that'll get me to upload to this godforsaken channel, it has to be the Irish government. As I'm sure all my subscribers and dear allies know, I love them. No, seriously, I enjoy them.
Like a urethra enjoys Tabasco sauce.
So anyway, I saw something a couple days ago that I must admit had made me feel like I'd taken something. Like that rather sizable dose of acid I dropped a few years ago had kicked back in and I was in the midst of a drug flashback. But no.
What a gyp that turned out to be. Just more horse by the big acid companies, that's all it is.
This is real life. And once again, the line between satire and reality has just become indiscernible. See, I'd be mad at this if I weren't both just so tired. So fucking tired, lads. But primarily just convinced that this is literally ragebait at an institutional level. Ragebait being a term used online to describe the act of publishing something generally inflammatory, primarily with the intention of getting a rise out of people. I'm explaining the term ragebait because my Irish government videos tend to get a few of the older folks watching, okay? Forgive me. Either way, this is sincerely what I think it is, because in these past 6 to 8 years of heightened social and political unrest, all the Irish government seems to want to do is continuously prod at this wasp nest that's been on the verge of breaking open for quite a while. Why? I don't know. I really don't. I can give you a million different theories as to why, though half them might get me arrested in the coming years. Because, you know, police and speech is the solution to our unprecedented crime, homelessness and migration rates. But I don't know. Editor's note, this video has actually taken me so long to make that the hate speech elements of the hate crime bill have actually been amended and removed. So, good news, I guess. I mean, they're probably still going to try and pull the same shit again in another 12 months, but I mean, take the small victories where you can. But I don't know. I've genuinely no clue how things have gotten so bad. Be it a sense of emotional blind fury towards the opposing tribe, something seemingly imported from the American ecosystem, or more nefarious interests intentionally trying to accelerate society towards decline for their own gain. Or a mix of both. I don't know. I'm just a silly pony on the internet. No, but one thing I'm certain of in my own heart, I know the Irish government has in the very least played a huge part in creating this monster of misinformation they're fighting against. I know this because I've been a hyper-political internet autist for the last 8 years of my life, and I've seen this shit with my own eyes. I mean, I went from being 12 and Damo and Ivor was airing on RTE2, our public tax-funded broadcaster. Now, I'm sure some of my viewers remember Damo and Ivor, whether they'd like to or not, but for me Yankee Doodles watching, Damo and Ivor was an Irish TV show that was extremely lowbrow and fired shots at basically everyone it could, with the two main characters being very stereotypical depictions of upper and lower class Dubliners.
10 grand, do you?
10 grand? You do realise the cost of living has actually gone up since the 1950s?
Well. Might have known you were behind this.
Yeah, and I was behind your man last night as well. Lashing her out, that's all it was.
Anything on you I shouldn't have,
You pigs!
Now, we never kicked up in arms about it because this show came out, for lack of a better phrase, back when we knew how to have a laugh. Again, it was lowbrow and not particularly well received by all good church-going members of the Catholic congregation, but it aired on our public broadcaster. That in and of itself was kind of an approval from our establishment, our media, that even if you were a bit crass, a bit out there, not to everyone's grandmother's liking, there was still a place for you. Now, I know this show last aired in 2014 and I was younger back then, therefore I'm only nostalgic for my childhood and everything was actually just as bad as it is now and I was just naive and dumb, but no, shut up. It was a different time. The humour was different. People were different. And despite the humour oftentimes being very offensive, downright derogatory, we all seemed to get along fine. Way better than we do now. What changed? But that's just a theory. A game theory. Let's get back to the actual point. Actually, no, we can't. I seriously can't believe I almost wrote this entire video without taking into consideration the undisputed, OG, original gangsters of crass, vile, sexist, immature, and just plain wrong RTE public broadcast content. Ladies, gentlemen, homosexual homo sapiens of the intergalactic African variety, Podge and Rog. And Lucy.
Yeah, but seriously now, what was it like being a bogger's sex symbol?
You can't think of yourself as a sex symbol if you're cleaning out good
Let me
shit
tell you,
and all
we
that
had
kind
to have windscreen wipers fitted to the front of our television screen. That's a fact.
I'm writing about trying to find out the gayest biscuit in Ireland.
How come men only have orgasms?
Yeah.
Well, women have them too, but
What?
maybe women have them too.
What?
Huh?
Yeah.
Ah, you're joking.
When?
You'd love it over there, by the way.
Where? Where now?
Over in Southeast Asia.
Oh, God.
Oh.
We've seen it on the internet, haven't we?
Yeah.
Seen it, I've pedalled to it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I've been there.
Oh, no, listen. That place was made for you, Per.
Oh, I tell you.
Absolutely made. And I know a few lads down there in Pat Pong.
Lads?
You know? Yeah.
I know we're not into that.
Well, they don't look like lads. They don't look like lads, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
well, that's acceptable. Jodie, we first came across you.
Literally.
The gayest biscuit has got to be that one. The Mikado.
Yes.
Oh, a flood of talent that is Pamela.
Oh, well done.
You like that, huh? Model, TV presenter, actress, and fashion expert.
I wish
and,
I was all those things at once, but no.
well, you were also Roger's Wank of the Week for 3 weeks running. Last October. Yeah.
Well, you know when you've been for a dump, right? And you decide that you don't need to wash your hands. I mean, who does?
Nah, you don't. Well, sometimes you don't.
And then when you sit back down with your date, right, you just have to do a quick... Just to make sure that it didn't touch the brown. Now, is it acceptable, this is the big question, is it acceptable to ask your date for a second opinion? You know?
Would you smell that for me, love? Just check.
You'd wash the hand first.
Ah, no, come on.
No, sure, nobody does that.
Only if you've got the squits or something.
Why do you both only have sugar and lemon on your pancakes? Why don't you try something different like cream or strawberries or bananas, or there's even savoury ones. You could have ham with cheese or maybe tomato.
Oh, right. You're one of them.
One of what?
God. One of the reasons why this country has gone rotten.
Did the baby Jesus have whipped cream and banana on his pancake?
No,
I don't think so.
No, pancakes should be served with lemon and sugar, and everything else is gay and against Ireland.
Don't fuck with the pancakes.
Now, I'm no Podge and Rog expert, but from everything I've seen of them, I'm almost, I am shocked that they actually aired on RTE. They're pretty much the embodiment of everything the current status quo hates, or hates to see people laugh at. Either way, I just felt like it was very important to mention that duo and all their debauchery, given that they helmed from a completely different time, when people were even more tolerant. The 90s! Everyone was on ecstasy! Or so I've heard. And again, despite Podge and Rog being broadcast in hundreds of thousands of Irish households, I don't recall any major historic right-wing sentiment held by the public led by a pair of misogynist puppets. Anyhow, I digress. I think my point was, I've gone from the age of 12, seeing the establishment not being racist, but simply having a place for racy humour, to being 20 and seeing literal institutionalised racism in a junior cycle school textbook. This comes courtesy of the latest standard Irish SPHE textbook, Health and Wellbeing, written by Anne Potts and Nullig O'Grady. Now, SPHE is a subject standing for Social, Personal and Health Education. Basically what we call a DOS subject. Something you can hopefully put your head down for 30 minutes and try and reclaim some of the 0.02 hours of sleep you got before school. Not a particularly important subject, though certainly one of the more interesting. When you don't hate school enough to actually be interested. Happened a couple of times, true story.
High school sucks. High school sucks. High school sucks. Everybody called me a faggot.
Now, I can't say in my time of doing SPHE I've ever had any quote-unquote agendas shoved down my throat, so to speak. Not by the textbook, not that I can recall, not that I was exactly paying the fullest of attention, to be fair. But what I've got here today is truly something else. So, sit down class, without further ado, pens and papers out, red or green biro, shout out to Spyro. We're going to class. Strand 1, Activity 1. Yes, literally the first fucking page of the book. Looking at difference. Your teacher, me, will read aloud the following descriptions of two different families. While you are listening, close your eyes and imagine what it would be like to live in this family. And to start, we have Family A. We do not like change or difference. All of our family members are Irish. We do not have a single relation living abroad, or anyone from another community in our family. We have a family business, and it is expected that we will join it when we finish school. Noirin would like to be a yoga instructor, but my dad said it is not a proper job and she must stick to what she knows. We eat Irish food and have potatoes and bacon and cabbage every day because it is Irish and it is our tradition. Our holidays are spent touring Ireland. We all play Irish musical instruments and go to the Fla every summer. Sean wanted to learn the drums and steel guitar, but Mom said, "Niet, no, because there are lots of great Irish instruments." We love sport, but we must only play hurling, handball, or Gaelic football. No foreign games are permitted. It is okay for us to watch television programs that are made in Ireland, like Ireland's Fittest Family and The Late Late Show. But our parents complain that RTE is showing more and more imported trash every day. The only movies we get to see are Irish ones, none of that Hollywood rubbish for us. We get told off if we mix with people of a different religion from ours, as they would be a bad influence on us. You can open your eyes now, if you're doing that. Look at that beautiful illustration. Now, a few red flags might have already been set off, like the implicit association between the family engaging in traditional Irish activities and their fucking blatant racism. But we gotta reserve judgment for a moment, because there's more. Family B.
We love change and difference. We find other cultures new and exciting. Our favourite dinners are curry, pizza and Asian food. During school holidays, we go camping in Europe and visit the galleries and see the wonderful paintings there. We like different types of music, like reggae and hip-hop.
Fortnite balls, I'm gay, I like boys, I kidnap autistic kids.
To classical. We have relations in London and Australia. And our family is part Irish, part Romanian and part Dutch. We are a sports madhouse and play hurling, soccer and rugby. Our parents are really interested in our education but have told us college does not suit everyone and it is important to follow a career doing something you love. My eldest brother, Flor, is partially sighted and travelled to Baltimore in the US for specialist treatment. This was paid for by fundraising in our community and by the Irish American group in Maryland. He's now a volunteer with the Red Cross in Syria. My sister Kim went on a student exchange to France last year and loved it so much she stayed for an extra few months working as a ski instructor. Most years we house swap with a different family in a different country. It is a great way to meet people and learn about other cultures and societies. It makes you realise that when you get to know them, people are a lot more alike than different.
Now, honestly, we've got a few questions the Department of Education seriously wants us to take seriously. But I need to recover, okay? Forgive the silly voices and all that, but I needed something to get me through this. Like, actually reading these for the first time really was a trip, and it is very hard to articulate just how strangely self-hating it all feels. Like, I like how the unit is called All Different, All Equal, and at the same time, Family A was clearly the only way they felt they could appropriately depict a strict religious household. All Irish, all white. It's just beyond obvious to me that in this school textbook, of all places, they're trying to take potshots at Irish conservatives. I mean, not even conservatives. Like, yeah, you can definitely tell whoever wrote this had some gripes with people on Twitter, but Really, this is just anyone who's sick and tired of this nanny state, clockwork orange bullshit excuse of a government. Anyone who's capable of seeing the RTE as nothing more than a publicly funded propaganda machine. Anyone who dares think it's not our responsibility to take in the rest of the world while literally every social service we have is overloaded and overbooked to the brim. And anyone who thinks the solution to the previous problem isn't to just pave over and industrialise every last bit of green grass in this country. Because that's all this reads as. Change is good. All change is good. No change is bad. And if you disapprove of any change, you must just be a member of Family A, aka a backwards hick. I suppose that's really my whole problem with this exercise. It's obvious it's trying to instill this sentiment that any resistance to any change is a bad thing to be stigmatised, when it most certainly isn't. Like, I'm sorry to rant so much, but this does tie into something that's been on my mind for a while, years even. I truly think a lot of the increase in political extremism in this country has stemmed from a mixture of institutions' refusal to listen to regular people, and more often than not, at the same time, antagonising of said regular people that's gone on for years. This lumping of anyone with conservative or strong anti-authority traits into this bracket of far right. I'm not going to say there's no far right in Ireland, but I just can't not mention how long the government has spent helping them by gaslighting everyone they can into thinking anything remotely socially conservative or populist is just far right rhetoric. When you write people off like that and disrespectfully disregard them so often for so long, how can you feign surprise when a sizable amount of them eventually turn to the side that's at least actually giving them an answer? No matter how extreme. Beyond that, it's just this case where you call anyone who doesn't align with the journal.ie's perception of society an extremist, a racist, a sexist, and you do it over and over and over and over and over.
Okay, Clay, I get the point.
No! You!
Okay, I'm gonna stop this now before I get...
Arcady! Open up! Arcady!
Like, I'm sorry, but again, how can you pretend to act surprised when a large enough amount of them eventually go, yeah, I am all these things you're calling me. What about it? Like, it's really quite tiresome being anything right of far left in this country, because it seems you're either with the programme or you're an extremist. There's no room for nuance. And I think over the last 6 years though, specifically the last 4, the greater government's refusal to interact with and active antagonisation of anyone right of centre has both made people more extremist and made it really fucking frustrating for those of us who try to not be extremist. Like, it's just tiresome to live under a government of clowns that somehow get white guilt. You know, despite the fact that this is Ireland. We've spent half our history at war, half our history starving, and the other half damaging our brains. If there's anyone more deserving of reparations, it's us. Okay, now, I jest on the reparations, but I'm serious about the government. I don't think the Irish government has ever been more openly contemptuous towards their own race, their own predecessors, and their own current populace than they are now. And I think this is a pretty good, if remarkably silly example of that. Like, you can't tell me they didn't take some sort of joy in making it so that Family A, which I feel like a frightening amount of kids today probably don't even know is illustrated to look like a traditional Irish household like you'd see in old photos from, well, anywhere from the 1800s to the 1960s, frankly. You know, the sort of household your great-grandmother would tell you she slept with her 12 sisters, 2 brothers, mother, father, and pet donkey in. That sort of household. You can't tell me they didn't take joy in making that family the one which happens to be a shower of stupid, evil, backwards bastards, cartoonishly conservative like something out of a Dickens novel. And then, of course, the inverse in making the multicultural, multiracial, EU-approved Family B saints of pure benevolence that put both Gandhi and Mother Teresa to shame with their open minds and high IQs. Literally not a single bad trait is attributed to Family B, which in and of itself, you know, that sort of depiction, isn't that like sort of racist in its own way? blatantly painting one preferred group of people as something of complete genetic and intellectual superiority. You know, a few guys got that idea in the 1930s, and now, well, humanity has hentai. But no, not even that though. It's just this type of attitude, this type of naive, almost perfect, do no wrong portrayal of the more diverse cast. That's also racist. I mean, admittedly in its own backwards way, but that's also racist. Now, I get it that this is showcasing two extreme hypotheticals, but firstly, I know the Irish establishment are a bunch of self-hating limp dicks that actually think in these extreme ways. I mean, the only people that hate themselves more than 16-year-old My Chemical Romance fans are servants of the Irish government. And secondly, you don't need to be explicitly racist towards one group of people and implicit to the other, just to get across the idea that an open mind is a good thing. It's really hard to break down exactly why this feels so fucked, but like, we've got questions here, and the first one, advantages of family A, I genuinely don't know what the intended answer is. I can answer it, and I will shortly, but I genuinely don't know what Ann Potts or Nullig O'Grady intended for me to say here. The Fla is cool, little Irish music festival, you know, for the Yanks watching. It's kind of fucked up you made your neo-Nazis poster boys for it, but I don't know. I seriously don't think there was an intended answer for advantages of living with family A. But I can give you mine. RTE is shite. And the reason I know people in government must be absolutely fucking fuming is because they specifically felt the need to have their little evil conservative caricatures name drop RTE as something they hate. And then, as always, they don't even get our arguments right. Imported rubbish? No! You made it! It's homegrown! That's not Cali, bro. That's not Cali. That's Hayes. You grew it. Like, as a matter of fact, the shows on RTE that tend to be the most unbearable, the most stuffed with postmodern politics, are all the ones made here. You don't see Family A complaining about TG Cahir. TG Cahir is the other Irish TV station that actually broadcasts in Irish. See all the work I put into these videos for you Yanks. TG Cahir aired Better Call Saul. Not really relevant to anything here, but shout out to TG Cahir. A friend of Saul's a friend of mine. But yeah, the fact they literally had their evil trad Gaelic nationalist family name drop RTE is insanely funny to me. RTE is rubbish, and it has been for a fair number of years. I'm not saying this because my opinion matters, but I just think over the last few years it's become a pretty commonly held sentiment. You see, RTE during the early 20s, oh, the 20s, the roaring 20s. Well, maybe they got a little too ballsy in their rather gleeful endorsement of draconian nanny state measures, including, but not limited to, a literal fucking 5-kilometer radius around your house which you will be arrested for leaving.
Everyone in the country has been asked to stay at home, with exercise permitted within a 5-kilometer radius of your home.
No one's really gonna get it.
Physical presence in the workplace are permitted to travel.
But no, there's a whole myriad of reasons why people on both sides have lost any last semblance of trust or respect for the RTE as our national, non-partisan public broadcaster. Admittedly, a lot more reasons on the right, but we did all seem to band together around those accidental 6-figure payments Ryan Tubridy was receiving. By accident, you know. It is great when both sides of the political autism spectrum can get together on an issue, but it'd be even better if that slimy bollocks was in jail, you know, for that slight misappropriation of somewhere between 100 and 300 G's of taxpayer money, you know, G's, stacks, big ones. I mean, what did he get? A slap on the dick? Oh, you can't host a late toy show anymore? Oh no, not as if it didn't already peak in 1999.
What about Lara Croft? In Tomb Raider.
The graphics have improved lots on that.
Would it be almost like she was in the room with you?
It actually almost looks like a real person in parts of it. It looks very good and very real.
Yeah. Okay. You can look around, live. Go on. Miss Lara Croft. Okay, Lara Croft and Stuart and David, who cannot believe their eyes and ears.
Do I have anything else to say about RTE? Oh yeah, this kind of ties into what I said earlier, but they took quite a lot of joy in being the government's mouthpiece for a while there, like talking down to the public like an abusive alcoholic mother for a few years. But I suppose that applied to most news broadcasters in most countries during those tumultuous times. I mean, just a weird side note, but I know as a matter of fact that some people got off on the total infantilization of the general public from figures of authority throughout the early 2020s. And when I say got off to it, I don't mean they liked not having to go to school or work during lockdown. No, I mean they were masturbating to the fact that multinational governmental institutions literally wanted to control them. This is one among many of the reasons why I refuse to believe MKUltra ever ended.
Oh, are you winning, sir? What do we do if someone refuses to be tested? Well, they can't now. If someone refuses in our facilities to be tested, they have to keep staying. So they won't be able to leave after 14 days. They have to stay on for another 14 days. So it's a pretty good incentive. You either get your tests done and make sure you're cleared, or we will keep you in a facility longer.
I'm just saying, Yankees, it's not worth voting for the Fed puppet just because she talks like the big dummy mommy MILF you always wanted, okay? And I don't know where else to fit this in, but if you've watched this far, you're probably partial to the odd conspiracy theory, so whatever came of that cry for help ye maybe accidentally broadcast when you were visiting the UCD laboratories in November of 2021, showcasing lab techs working with samples of the Omicron variant. You know, the one that was actually going to kill us all. Whatever came of that? From the one singular article I can find about it after way too long trying to use Google in 2024, the university said it was a joke. Help.
Help! Help! Help me! Help!
That was just a joke? Now, I get that science has its fair share of eccentrics and all, but when RTE's response to this was to scrub all the footage from their archives and social media posts and never refer to it again and make it practically impossible to find online, just gets you thinking. And funny enough, the only remaining footage of this original broadcast I could find comes from a rather right-wing conspiracy-friendly channel, you might know him, called Memology 101. You know, it's really not a good sign in that writing this and looking for that help message, I started thinking to myself, yeah, maybe I made it up, or maybe it was just some photoshopped conspiracy slop I saw on Twitter. But no, it happened. It was never properly addressed. Right-wingers and conspiracy nuts kicked up for maybe a week and then it just died. If it weren't for the world's favourite Honduran white nationalist, this clip would have just gone straight into the void as another piece of unsubstantiated misinformation. Anyway, back to the assignment. Them lumping in a line like that really is just showing of how insecure and frankly in the fucking dumps RTE is. And I love it. I mean, not being able to tolerate a constant stream of propaganda under the thinnest veil of entertainment and information does not make someone an extremist. It makes them sane. I swear to God, I'm not lying when I say my mother, probably the most apolitical person I know, have ever known, she said in a rather pissed off manner that she was upset that the Trump shooter missed. The first one, by the way. Now, she's no radical feminist, nor political extremist, nor ideological accelerationist. Again, she is my mother, the most apolitical person I know. And I'm not pointing fingers here, but the only news she views does happen to be RTE. Now, I don't really give a shit who my ma wants dead or not, but simply the ability the media clearly has to influence people so strongly. We have Irish folk who, no offence to my mother, love you dearly, know nor care absolutely nothing about American politics, cheering on the attempted assassination of a living US president. I don't care if the fucker is Ronald Reagan. I would actually prefer if the attempted murder of people with opinions I don't like wasn't cheered on. I know some of my detractors might think otherwise, especially with my sense of humour being a bit...
Hi, I'm Trevor Moore. Did you know that it's illegal to say I want to kill the President of the United States of America? It's illegal. It's a federal offense. It's one of the only sentences that you're not allowed to say. Now, it was okay for me to say it right then because I was just telling you that it's illegal to say, I want to kill the President of the United States of America.
But it's the truth. Anyway, enough about RTE. Let's move on. Actually, no, what sort of conservative family watches the late feckin' show? I swear to God, I'm a lot more liberal than this heightened internet pony persona might make me out to be, but I still can't watch more than a minute of that gick at a time. I think the last time I watched an episode in full, Jacksepticeye was on, and I was watching purely for him, and I was also like 13. Oh, Jacksepticeye. Jacksepticeye would never be based.
Now, Jack, a completely unrelated question. Do you like Mr. Beast? No.
Do you think Mr. Beast ruined YouTube?
Yes.
Who's the YouTuber you hate the most?
I don't know. There's a lot of groomers and pedophiles on our platform.
Make this man CEO of YouTube now! Also, I get that it's because they're true Gael nationalists of the 33 and a Third Reich, but I still feel a need to clarify that the whole none of that Hollywood rubbish sentiment, it doesn't stem from racism against Americans or a sense of Gaelic superiority. It stems from, well, I wouldn't call it racism, but for the sake of brevity, it stems from racism against paedophiles. Because, you know, a bunch of people in Hollywood, for some reason or another, have a tendency to be paedophiles. Sorry, I just wanted to make that clear for the people in the back. You think Eyes Wide Shut is just a dream story? Nah, motherfucker, that's the closest approximation we'll ever get to the whole ass reason Kubrick put an ocean in the way of those freaks. And we saw the PG version. I feel I need to clarify that by PG. I'm not alluding to the whole conspiracy that Warner Brothers cut a whole half hour of sex orgies from the film after Kubrick died suddenly of a heart attack. Was he vexed? That's a joke, that's a joke, that's a joke! As much as I'd love to believe it, I don't think it's true. But please, history, prove me wrong. I love when new Kubrick stuff drops. It's been a while. And Napoleon was shite. Also, not to flex in a strange manner, but you could theoretically live entirely off potatoes, bacon and cabbage. Probably wouldn't be too happy, but you'd live. Curry, pizza and Asian food, whatever that qualifies, I'm not so sure. Something tells me they threw in Asian food as a kind of catch-all after realising what a diet of their first two cool, diverse choices of food would do to your insides for after you know, a day. Maybe two. Anyway, I suppose disadvantages to Family A are kind of obvious. They're backwards hick types that act like the sort of parents emos love pretending they had. Sorry to keep throwing you under the bus, emos. I love you. I mean, Family A reads like some sort of British propaganda poster, or as someone on Twitter put it, which I'm stealing, it reads like a semi-racist English novel from the 1800s. As a matter of fact, the more I think about it, this assignment is literally the institutional equivalent of a Wojak meme. An imaginary story about how your group of people are perfect and our group of people are bad. Your Chad Family B versus our Virgin Family A. And you can tell it's a leftist meme because it's not only completely one-sided, but also overly verbose. I mean, not to show my Gen Z, but Yappuccino much? No, I actually hate that shit so much, it's unreal, you know, someone who values the English language but has a hard time expressing themselves, I really hate that Zoomer shit, you know, not everything can fit in a fucking tweet. I don't know, maybe my answers aren't the best, but I don't know if I'm as smart as a first year. Oh yeah, this is for first years. Once again, for the Dixie singers watching, that's 12 and 13 year olds. Can you imagine going into your first year of secondary school doing SPHE, a subject I mostly recall being quite relaxing, and having this bombshell dropped on your barely pubescent ass? I'd be livid. I'd probably make a video about it, given that's when I actually started making videos. I don't think I'd make my point as well, but I'd probably be funnier. Funny enough, the first video on this channel turns 7 years old in a couple days, and
Little Miss Hot Mess is her name. Miss, you are not going to strip clubs. You are going to kindergartens and libraries. You may want to reconsider the name you gave yourself.
No comment. Well, actually, I don't know if this counts as a comment, but
Big hooray! Families marching 10 by 10, hurrah!
no comment. I just think it really is insane how this dichotomy of acceptance lays in such a black and white, downright Americanized perspective of conservative and liberal. And I hope some kid can forge the right words to make such an argument without falling into the pits of saying an internet buzzword such as woke, instantly delegitimizing any valid points he may have had and turning the rest of the class into a lecture on online misinformation, because it's 2024 and this is how we do politics now. Maybe, I don't know. In all fairness, my teachers were probably a 60-40 split liberal conservative. But once again, going back to the way things have been the last few years, I finished school during COVID, and I remember during that period of time, that's when a lot of people started putting a lot of blind trust in the government and rather cited distrust in the same government. The left went further left, as did the right, and even in classes in a professional institution, you could kind of feel that. Point is, I guess, it really depends on the teacher. And in this world, you need someone capable of remembering the word non-partisan. This entire assignment not only reinforces this strange kind of stigma a lot of the middle, upper and r/Ireland classes have around lower and working class people that were born here. And even if a teacher were to attempt to take a non-partisan look, all the questions basically require you to side with Family B. Like, I seriously still don't know what the intended answer was for that first question, or even if there was an answer. Family B comes around, and those last few lines, it makes you get to realise that when you get to know them, people are a lot more alike than different. I mean, that's great and all, I don't doubt it, and I don't think I need to casually swap houses with a whole different family in a whole different country to have such a realisation, thank you. My point is, Family B top off their equity clipboard with the sort of moral lesson only our fair mare Twilight Sparkle could deliver to Princess Celestia at the end of an episode of My Little Pony. Friendship is magic. I mean, how is a student supposed to say anything negative about these saintly, benevolent beings of Irish, English, Dutch, Romanian, American origin? It's just really hard to look at this as a piece of schoolwork allegedly about the nature of love and tolerance and not see propaganda. Maybe I'm being neurotic, but I can't help but picture kids such as myself back then who haven't developed the vocabulary to properly hold up a philosophical argument, I mean I still haven't, feeling a mixture of ashamed and pissed off seeing this assignment, this piece of schoolwork that in the very least subconsciously influences you to associate negative traits with conservatism and pride in your nationality. And at most, may make any kids who've made the mistake of thinking Andrew Tate was top G. Well, actually he was. Top grapist.
Open wide, kids, cause I'm gonna grape you in the mouth!
But no, it'll probably aggravate some dumb kids into making a show of themselves because they can't provide a detailed explanation as to why this assignment just inherently feels wrong. And maybe that's the intended effect, to get a kid melting down in the middle of class about woke nonsense so teacher can make a right show of him in front of everyone. But that's the sort of shit that makes Roger Waters write albums, so please for the love of God stop. But no, for something intended to be taught in a professional learning environment, something that handles multiple extremely touchy subjects in the current political landscape, I, in my official, unprofessional opinion, think this is not how things should be handled. And I wish I could provide a solution, but I kinda see the problem commies have, where it literally seems like the only way to fix this would be to fundamentally restructure our entire government from the ground up, which I don't think our current government wants, or wants people encouraging. So just so you know, I'm not encouraging. But I say this because this SPHE assignment isn't the problem. It's a symptom of the problem, which is our national attitude of self-hatred and inferiority. I don't know if it's that once Irish people are free from their oppressors, they feel the need to oppress themselves, but we clearly feckin' do. I mean, we've been voting in the same shower of bastards over and over again for over a decade now. We're not completely without fault. Though, my big brain, big Guinness favourite pub conspiracy is that pretty much all the Irish parties are basically the same. They just spout different talking points depending on what's most popular at the time. You know, like Sinn Féin suddenly becoming all nationalist again, conveniently remembering their roots as soon as right-wing sentiment starts to grow uncontrollable, you know? Either way, I live in a country where votes are earned from politicians getting people to fix up council house kitchens. There's already quite a few problems with our electoral process as things are. Like seriously, I don't know if there's an equivalent in America, but here in Ireland, it seems like a big part of our local election process, well, that's a big part of it too, but it seems like a big part of our local election process is politicians getting votes by writing letters to the city council to do their jobs, you know, to fix up housing that's owned by the government. Politicians here win a lot of votes simply by saying like, oh, your bathroom's cold and you got spiders crawling up your arse. Okay, I'll get the government to fix that. You vote for me next election. Does that happen in America? Please tell me in the comments. Because I've been told the term for it here is parish politics, but what I've looked up about that doesn't seem to fit it 100%. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know how to end this video. I've been trying to figure out a way to neatly wrap this up for way too long now, because frankly I feel like I've probably said about 70% of what I want to say, but I've taken up too much of your time and there's still a whole page of questions left. So this is the part of the video where I would go through the questions and all that, but we have news. Good news, everybody. The activity, that whole activity has been pulled from the book. Books have been recalled, or they're not gonna cover it. Either way, good news. Goes back to what I said earlier. Take the small victories where you can. Now, with the activity being pulled, we have a little thing here from EDCO, the publishers of the book. Following the students' introduction to the Equal Status Acts, the activity uses exaggeration and hyperbole to convey the nature and effects of inclusion and bias. On closer inspection, we now appreciate that our approach should have been different and that it has caused upset and anger, even though this was not our intention. So in the business, we call this a non-apology, but whatever. Questions. Family B, advantages and disadvantages. We kind of covered this one already. Advantages, everything. Disadvantages, again, actually goes back to what I said. I don't think there's what was the intended answer for disadvantages of Family B? I mean, actually, you know what, swapping house, that's really, like, that's going the extra step. That's really, like, to prove how good a citizen you are. We swap houses with a different family in a different country. They got that Andy accent in my head, canonically. Another question that I really don't know, I don't know actually it's not that I don't know, but it's like, I don't know how they seriously expected us to take it seriously. Which family is more inclusive? Which family is more inclusive, chat? And the final question is, which family would you rather belong to? Look, they'd probably kill me, but I can't have this global homo agenda in my lap. No, I don't know. This whole thing's had me head a bit fucked. There's worse issues as well. It was kind of annoying to see people complain, because two things can be a problem at once. But about a few days after this all blew up, a fucking huge list of skills and... oh, it's the same. A huge list of skills were dropped, and the and numbers of alleged sexual abuse cases in those schools were dropped. And that's also a huge issue, definitely, most certainly. They can both be problems. I don't really know what else I want to say. I watch some Family Guy. Yeah, so yeah, I finished this video out of spite.
I'd love to see him succeed in today's climate.